rūpa-kāraṇa-nirmukte rūpe rūpaṃ prasajyate āhetukaṃ na cāsty kaś-cid āhetukaḥ kva-cit.
Rūpa-kāraṇa-nirmukte rūpe rūpaṃ prasajyate āhetukaṃ na cāsty kaś-cid āhetukaḥ kva-cit. MMK chapter 4 verse 2. Where physicality was cut loose from what causes physicality, it would follow that physicality was without cause, and nowhere without cause is there anything of substance. So just 2 or 3 days ago I had the idea of changing the translation of rūpa to physicality. Before I translated it in the first instance as the material square brackets constituent, and after that as matter and what causes matter. And so that kind of translation is kind of more suitable for analysis of skandhas, an analysis of the material constituent of the kind you might find in a dusty old Buddhist textbook. But when I changed the translation of rūpa to physicality, as in nama-rūpa, psychophysicality, the fourth in the 12 links in the chain of dependent arising of suffering, that really opens the chapter. It really opened the chapter up for me to explore it much more really on the basis of my own experience, because physicality has always been something which I've kind of regarded as saving me from even at primary school. I used to play what we called rugby in the playground, sort of chasing around an old slipper and wrestling with it and then running around with it. And I was aware of the changes that playing that game at lunchtime, how it changed my whole being, mentally and physically, everything. I also used to, well, I was still at primary school, go on quite long cycling rides. And then when I went to secondary school, I skipped a year and was the youngest boy in the year, relatively small and so on. But probably because all the rugby I'd played at primary school, what we call rugby, I was quite precocious at playing rugby, proper rugby, and temporarily earned the nickname Mighty Mouse. So again, that was something that gave me a bit of confidence when I was generally lacking in confidence. And then when I was like 13, 14, I used to be terrified of meeting girls at lunchtime, so I'd go down and practice weights instead. So it was all the same thing, recognising that when things were a bit of a mess psychologically, or at least I was unsettled, I always found salvation doing something physical. And the weight training again had the side effect of making me better at rugby. So that was, which also, was becoming more and more physical. And then when I went to university, I started doing karate. That led me to Japan and Zazen. And Nishijima Sensei described Zazen as the most stationary form of physical gymnastics. So that's how I understood Zazen. It was a physical thing. So that suited me, physical things. I thought I was good at them or not. I knew that by practicing physical things, your body adapts and you become more and more physical. So that's how I sat in Zazen, really doing the wrong thing. And again, as I just demonstrate what I think is the wrong thing there, you might have noticed my breathing opening up. So this leads me to the point I wanted to make, actually, that Zazen led me to Alexander work. And Alexander work people regard it as being about posture. They think it's a kind of body work. But Alexander himself described it as the most mental thing there is, and an exercise in learning how to think. So the big irony is that when you actually try to demonstrate the wrong thing, and if you don't do it too extremely, I mean, if I really extremely do it, then I can hardly speak, and that doesn't help my breathing. But if on a sort of a more subtle level you think, yeah, I'm going to show the wrong thing, it frees you from trying to be right. And that is, in a way, that is rūpa-kāraṇa, the cause of physicality. What causes true physicality? See, true physicality is letting the neck be free, to let the head go forward and up, to let the back lengthen and widen, sending the knees forwards and away. If you can allow all those things and go on for a walk in the countryside, there's nothing better than that. You feel $1 million. You're in your element. In Fukan Zazengi, it says, like a dragon that's found water, like a tiger before its mountain stronghold, like a dragon that's found water. So a tiger before its mountain stronghold, it's the most physical thing you can imagine, like that physical power of a tiger. You've ever heard one roar, you know. So I remember I went to the zoo in Japan and heard a tiger roar. Talk about physicality, you know, there's the sound of it. Feel the vibration in your chest. So in Alexander circles, you know, physicality sometimes has a bad name because Alexander works with the most mental thing there is. But the point is, Alexander is the most mental thing there is because it is what causes physicality. You can't have good posture, if you use that term, good posture. You can't sit well by doing your old habit. Sitting well is rather going back, prasajyate, going back to what causes physicality. And one of the things that causes physicality, and the one that's emphasised in Alexander's work, is thinking up, thinking those directions. Let the neck be free, to let the head go forward and up, to let the spine lengthen and the back widen, sending the knees forwards and away. So they're just thought directions, and indirectly, via re-educating the vestibular system, for example, the vestibular system then re-educates the body. So you enhance your physicality. You promote physicality. You become more physical as a result of going back to what causes physicality. And so yesterday, just in the process of commenting on the verse, I used the example of porridge. And then when I was memorising, yesterday I was memorising verse 2 and 3. And so when you're memorising the Sanskrit, rūpa-kāraṇa, what causes physicality, in my mind, that equals porridge. And then the whole verse, the meaning of it is that much more transparent, and it's easy to understand it as you're reciting it. Not only memorising the Sanskrit, but understanding what it means as you go. If you think of rūpa-kāraṇa as porridge, what causes physicality? There again, I was on Twitter this morning, and the person I follow most avidly on Twitter is an American, a columnist, or really a market player, research into the markets and economics and geopolitics, by the name of Luke Groman, former football player, American football player, great big physical bloke. And sometimes he posts pictures of his sons on Twitter, who are all also very athletic. His older son is even taller than Luke, and big physical specimen, champion rower. So there was a photo I saw this morning of Luke, sort of big smile, proudly sort of patting his son. And I thought, yeah, that's such a good photo, and they're both exuding physicality. But then when you think in that case, what causes physicality would be, the good food that they would eat there out in rural America, and I think Luke married his childhood sweetheart, and so the stable family, the loving mother, and so on. So I just have a sense of, that's what Nagarjuna is really talking about. It's not so dry and philosophical as you would think if you read studies that have been made about MMK hitherto. It's really, in this chapter as I read it, Nagarjuna is really aware of the physical realities of life. It's not so abstract or philosophical. He's talking about rūpa-kāraṇa, what causes physicality. Nirmukte rūpe. So nirmukte, as in verse 1, means cut loose. And nirmukte is locative, so that phrase rūpa-kāraṇa-nirmukte rūpe is locative absolute. So where physicality, rūpe, was cut loose from what causes physicality, rūpa-kāraṇa-nirmukte, rūpa-kāraṇa-nirmukte rūpe, where physicality was cut loose from what causes physicality. So where Luke Groman's conspicuously physical oldest son was separated somehow from his mother's love and the porridge he's eaten for breakfast, rūpaṃ prasajyate āhetukaṃ, it would follow, prasajyate, that physicality, rūpaṃ, was without cause, āhetukaṃ. So hetu means primary cause or root cause, or cause in general, and ka makes it into an adjective. It's an affix that makes an adjective, and is without. I think āhetukaṃ or āhetukaṃ are both mean the same, without cause. So rūpaṃ prasajyate āhetukaṃ, it would follow that physicality was without cause. Where physicality was cut loose from what causes physicality, it would follow that physicality was without cause. So here and now, my physicality has been improved by an hour spent picking up horse manure from my neighbour's field back there and transporting it to my compost heaps over there in buckets and a wheelbarrow. So I do that for an hour and then go and have a shower and a little stretch, and then you get the best of me. But once or twice, for whatever reason, like a couple of days ago, for example, I managed to tread on a nail. So the nail punctured my foot, and I thought I'd better steer clear of walking about on my foot for a while, make sure it didn't get infected, which fortunately it hasn't. But then when I gave talks on 3.8 and read out the translation of the text and translation of chapter 3, you could hear my voice. That was a lack of physicality in my voice, because I just had my breakfast and without doing any physical work just came and gave the commentary, and so I wasn't really myself in some ways. I become myself by doing physical work. That's something my wife has noticed over the years as well. I'm happy doing simple physical work. So the physicality, physicality, you can hear it in a voice, like a tiger's voice is full of physicality. talking about Paul Medal, he said being the listening posture and the ear-voice connection, the ear-voice use of yourself connection. You know, listen to a great opera singer. The sound is a physical energy, and so what's the cause in that case? That physicality of an opera singer. It might be a kind of gift, but it's a gift that has to be nurtured, like Pavarotti said. You know, he used to compare his voice to being a woman that he wanted to keep on side. That he needed to show love to. You know, it was no use being short of sleep or so things that we think of as being physical. You know, like it's like a heavyweight boxer. It's a real great manifestation of physicality. Those guys are usually quite expert on, like Tyson Fury, you know, devoting his winnings. Well, he didn't win, but devoting his match purse to help people with mental health, because not only did he devote the money to it, he's explaining much better than academic psychiatrists and psychologists and the like can explain, that what helped him was having a goal. That's the point he was making. So he transformed from being a great big fatty, swilling 18 pints of beer a night, to being in great physical condition for his fight with Deontay Wilder, primarily from a mental cause, from having a goal. So this is the point that Nagarjuna is talking about. Where that kind of physicality, Tyson Fury's physicality in fronting up to Deontay Wilder, where that physicality was cut loose from what causes physicality, including the mental strength to direct yourself towards a big challenge, it would follow that physicality was without cause. And then here's the punchline. Na cāsty kaś-cid āhetukaḥ kva-cit. And cha, nowhere, na kva-cit, without cause, āhetukaḥ, so this is nominative singular masculine. Āhetukaṃ earlier on was qualifying rūpaṃ. So rūpaṃ, nominative singular neuter. So āhetukaṃ, nominative singular neuter. But āhetukaḥ qualifies arthaḥ. So arthaḥ, artha means artha has so many meanings, like value, meaning, purpose, aim, goal, and hence object, and therefore thing. But it also means property, wealth, substance. So it could be translated here as thing. So na cāsty kaś-cid āhetukaḥ kva-cit. Nowhere without cause is there a thing. So nowhere is there. So nowhere, na kva-cit, is there, asti, any, kaś-cid, thing, arthaḥ. But in that context, thing is a better translation of bhava. So bhava means existent thing or existent thing. And usually when Nagarjuna uses the word bhava, he's expressing the non-empty concept of the opponent. So this chair in front of me, the opponent's conception is of existing thing, a self-existing thing. So that's bhava, thing. But what Nagarjuna is talking about here is a matter like physicality. So this body does not exist as a thing unto itself. But it sure as hell is not non-existent. Here it is. So it's arthaḥ. It's a thing of substance. That's how I decided to translate it. So arthaḥ, a thing of substance. So kaś-cid arthaḥ. Kaś-cid means any. So kaś-cid arthaḥ, anything of substance. So working from the English, and cha, nowhere, na kva-cit, without cause, āhetukaḥ, is there, āsty, anything of substance, arthaḥ. So from the Sanskrit, na cāsty kaś-cid āhetukaḥ kva-cit. Na, not, cha, and, āsty, there is, arthaḥ, thing of substance, and then with sandhi, na, cha, āsty arthaḥ, goes na cāsty arthaḥ. Kaś-cid, any, āhetukaḥ, without cause, kva-cit. So where, na kva-cit, nowhere, kva-cit, anywhere. Rūpa-kāraṇa-nirmukte, rūpaṃ prasajyate, āhetukaṃ na cāsty arthaḥ, kaś-cid āhetukaḥ kva-cit. Where physicality was cut loose from what causes physicality, it would follow that physicality was without cause. And nowhere without cause is there anything of substance. Just a final thing to add on that verse that I wanted to mention was that in 1994, I showed a couple of videos ago, I showed you the Shobogenzo Book 1 that was published in 1994. And in the run-up to that publication, I was really under a huge amount of stress. In the end, the deadline, for various reasons, I was just very short of time at the end. And so by the time the actual final I's were dotted and T's were crossed, I was in a very, very bad, like a bit of a nervous breakdown. So as usual, I knew that the task at hand was to get myself exuding physicality again. So every day I would go running, do stretching, do weight training, and I wasn't getting any better. I was getting worse. I had a pain in my right shoulder that I did all the things that would usually get my ki circulating, and cause the shoulder to release, and none of them were working. All the stretching and running, practicing zazen, nothing was working. And I would go into work for 2 days a week. I'd go into Tokyo and work for an economist, and at his meetings I'd be losing my voice. So it was just the kind of problem that Alexander, it was exactly the same problem, what they call clergyman's throat. The voice was going, and the more I pushed to get the voice to come out, the weaker it got. So I knew I was in bad shape, and also I had this pain in the stomach that I mentioned before as well. That in my 20s I had it when I was emotionally in trouble, and in my 30s I had this pain in the stomach. It was a sign. It was a sign that my energy wasn't being directed where it needed to be directed. It was sort of turning in on myself. So I knew that I needed to change direction in some way. And then I remembered 10 years earlier, in 1994, I'd gone to America on a mission to promote To Meet the Real Dragon, my teacher's book. Very idealistic, I went to the Zen Center in San Francisco, and with the idea of spreading the gospel. And incidentally, the reward I got from that was that during a one-day sitting retreat at down in the basement there of Zen Center San Francisco, there was somebody who was not part of the in-crowd there. He wasn't wearing a robe or priest's vestments or anything, but he was the one person I thought, yeah, his posture, his physicality, his physical posture, there was something about it. So at a convenient moment, I complimented him, said, you know, I really like your sitting posture. And he didn't take any of the credit himself. He said, oh, it's because I'm a student of the Alexander technique. He was actually Danish. And when he said a student, I don't know if usually in Alexander world, students mean a student teacher, and a pupil is somebody, ordinary member of the public who's having lessons, we call them a pupil, and a student is a student teacher. But anyway, he described himself as a student of the Alexander technique. So I'd filed this away somewhere in the back of my head. And so in 2004, when I found myself in trouble, I thought I'll check out the Alexander technique. So I went to Maru Zen in Tokyo, in Shimbashi, just below where I worked, in the Hibiya Kokusai building, great big skyscraper. Ordered 2 Alexander books. And when they came in the spring of 2004, no, spring of 1994, what am I talking about, 1994. I started Alexander training in 1995. So, yeah, when those books arrived in the spring of 1994, I knew the sunny afternoon when they arrived, and I went upstairs to lie in the sunshine and read them, I knew that my life had absolutely changed from that moment. And sure enough, the pain in the stomach, as soon as I established that I was on this new path, it just cleared up straight away. So what needed to happen then, when I came back to train as an Alexander technique teacher, I needed to understand that Alexander work is the most mental thing there is. So my body work approach had to be abandoned. And so I met an Alexander technique teacher in Togo called Imre Tureman, Swiss Alexander teacher. His Alexander teacher, head of training, had been Yehudi Cooperman, who in turn was trained by Patrick MacDonald. And Imre was a man of few words, used his hands very well to give me a radical new experience of good sitting posture. He worked with a 3-way mirror, and so he got his hands, because I was used to sitting like this, and Imre made me feel like I was sitting like a gorilla. My head was much further forward because I've been following Nishijima Sensei's instruction to do this. When Imre used his hands to point me in the right direction, it felt like I was a bloody gorilla, with suddenly got a massive great back, and my head is going veering off that way. But then he having sort of resculpted me, he showed me in a 2 or 3-way mirror what I looked like from the side, from behind. And fucking hell, it looked so different, but I really liked what I saw. It made sense, because as Imre himself said, the way you're moving, you're split into 2. It's like your back is split into 2. With this hyperextended arch. So with his hands, he'd put me back into what Master Dogen called one piece. And the point of Zazen, Master Dogen says, is naturally to become one piece. So I had no doubt this was for me. It was total revelation. But it was not that easy to go and see Imre that often. Once every couple of weeks I could manage. And I remember speaking to him on the phone, and I'd been trying to put into practice what he told me in the way of thinking this, that and the other. And of course, all that happened when I tried to do it all in my habitual way was the stiffness tended to come back, and I couldn't recapture kind of condition, the direction that Imre had given me whatsoever. And I remember him saying to me on the phone quite strongly, "Do not do, don't do." Of course, I didn't really understand what he meant. I still didn't understand what it meant 2 or 3 years later when I had my first lesson with Marjorie Barlow after I'd been training. It was nearly the end of my teacher training. And she put her hands on my head and neck and said, "Let the neck be free, let the head go forward and up. No, you're doing it." See, I hadn't understood really that why Alexander said it's the most mental thing there is. It's not that we're against physicality. It's that Alexander work is against going for the physicality directly, because that's trying to be right. And as I've demonstrated with my allowing myself to breathe by trying to be wrong, it's actually when you're prepared to be wrong, that's, Marjorie said again, that's the golden key. So that mind in which you're prepared to be wrong, again, it's pariksha, the mind of the explorer, who's not trying to prove something, who's not trying to be right, but he's just looking, finding out, being prepared to go wrong. Because you've never explored somewhere, you don't know where the right track is. You're looking for it. You don't mind going wrong. And so that's the cause of physicality. Pariksha, exploring, looking, being open, being prepared to be wrong. So I'm not saying anything the slightest bit original here. It might sound original to people who are coming to this from a Zen background, but it's nothing original in the Alexander work. Again, Marjorie Barlow. To be wrong, to be prepared to be wrong in this work is the golden key. So that's the cause. That's not the cause, but it's what causes physicality. In the dependent arising of physicality, being prepared to be wrong is not a cause, it's not the cause, but it is being empty what causes physicality. Rūpa-kāraṇa-nirmukte rūpe prasajyate āhetukaṃ na cāsty kaś-cid āhetukaḥ kva-cit. Where physicality was cut loose from what causes physicality, it would follow that physicality was without cause. And nowhere without cause is there anything of substance.
rūpa-kāraṇa-nirmukte rūpe prasajyate āhetukaṃ na cāsty arthaḥ kaś-cid āhetukaḥ kva-cit.